It's time for my Week 9 picks here on the YouTube channel. I am John Kurtz. I talk college football every day on this channel, specifically Big 12 football and conference realignment. And giving you my picks typically on the radio show week by week. That no longer exists, so now you get me live and in color. It's even better for you here on the YouTube channel. We do the new Big 12, we do the old Big 12, everybody included here in the picks. Let's go. We start with Texas and number 16, Baylor. That game being played at McLean Stadium in Waco. Baylor, a 2.5-point favorite in this game against Texas. This one is tough for me to pick. I think this is the one I struggle with the most throughout the week out of all of the picks across the board. Both teams are coming off of byes, and it's not that I don't believe in Baylor, but I think Baylor is like an 8-4 kind of team, and this would be one of those games that I think trips them up if I really do believe that. However, that also means that I would have to trust in Texas, and Texas is shown to be basically a Tom Herman team once again, just with a little bit sexier of an offense this year with Steve Sarkisian, but continuing to blow games. In the end, man, I'm actually going to roll with Texas, and I know this is stupid. I know it is stupid, and so if I'm wrong, I expect all of you Baylor fans to be in the comments and telling me just why I am wrong, but it's more that I feel like Dave Aranda right now is the coach of the year in the Big 12. He's done a tremendous job, but I do see some losses coming here toward the end of the year because I just don't think that they are a Big 12 championship game caliber team. This feels like the type of stumbling block that would be there. So I hate to do it, but I'm going Texas. Next, we have Iowa State and West Virginia. The Clones into the top 25 at number 22. They are 7-point road favorites at West Virginia. And look, I think Iowa State wins this game, but I think it's a close one. I think this is a really close one. I think there are a couple natural things at play here. One, West Virginia now has some more confidence after beating up on TCU last week, which kind of came out of nowhere, but that's just the nature, I think, of the middle part of the Big 12. Iowa State, I do not think, is a part of the middle of the Big 12. They are better than that. However, last week was a massive win. And after a season in which, they did have a win at K-State, which was very nice, but they've been waiting for like a statement win after losing the big game early to Iowa and then dropping that game at Baylor. I think this is where they have to suffer a hangover effect from what happened last week against Oklahoma State. I would expect there to be one, but Iowa State finds a way to grind it out in the end and wins this game by like 3. Texas Tech at Oklahoma, 2:30 on ABC. Oklahoma is a 20-point favorite there, 4th-ranked Sooners. I think get back in control and cruise. Now, there's some pause given to me here by the fact that Texas Tech could have that kind of galvanizing effect, like, hey, they just fired our head coach. Let's go win for the new guy. Let's go win to show them they were wrong. Kind of brothers in arms, like you could be bonded together by going through something like that. In a terrible loss to K-State last week in which Tech blew a 14-0 lead. But I think the other thing is Oklahoma will be very motivated by being embarrassed last week by Kansas. Everybody was watching that game in the early window. They've had to hear about it all across the board. They know that they need to continue to win games and win games as dominantly as they can for their playoff chances. I think I've been saying all along Caleb Williams was going to have a dud of a game. And for a while there in the first half, certainly that qualified. So I think Oklahoma gets it back on track. I would expect the Sooners to win this game by 24 or so. TCU and K-State, 2:30 on ESPNU at Bill Snyder Family Stadium in Manhattan. K-State's a 3-point favorite, and to be honest, I like the Cats here. I'm not particularly confident in K-State's ability to continually cover in Big 12 games, but that was a massive win last week over Texas Tech to come back and find a way to eke that out 25-24. So now they have a little bit of confidence in a game that they felt like was a must-win game. In fact, Russ Yeast, one of K-State's safeties, said that after the game last week. Everybody kind of felt like this was must-win. And TCU, man, not only do they continue to struggle, they've lost 4 or 5, but Gary Patterson keeps being worried about this off-the-field stuff. The articles about him being fired, the thing that happened against SMU. It just seems like the focus is all out of whack in Fort Worth right now, and I don't see them coming on the road and getting a win. So when the margin's only 3 points there, I'll take K-State to cover. Oklahoma State and Kansas, 6 o'clock on FS1 in Stillwater. Oklahoma's a 30.5-point favorite. That's a pretty big number. I think Oklahoma State, though, will be locked in and focused after losing last week. They finally got that loss out of the way. I'm sure Kansas has their attention more after what they did to Oklahoma last week. And frankly, even though Kansas finally came through, they finally came through and covered last week, right? I'm going to need it to take more than just one game to go against my Kansas opponent minus anything strategy. So for the time being, I'm going to stick to my rule, even though Kansas put together one hell of an effort last week against Oklahoma. So that's the current Big 12 slate that we have. We go now to the American and welcome in some of the future Big 12 members like number 2 Cincinnati at 11 a.m. on ESPN2. They're favored by 24.5 at Tulane. Tulane, a great logo, but just 1-6. Great uniforms, but only one win so far this year. Cincy struggled last week with Navy. That's something they know can't happen. They need to continue to dial up the style points. This is another one where I've been impressed by Cincinnati's ability to do that this year. I'm going to continue to ride that for right now, even though there was a blip on the radar last week. And I think some of that can come from just playing that Navy offense, right? Like, it's such a weird game to play because of the triple option. So I'm going to cut Cincy some slack for that. I'm going to give them the cover against Tulane. UCF and Temple, another 11 a.m. game. This one's on ESPN+. UCF a 10.5-point favorite in Philly. Hey, heck of a win last week for UCF, a team that had been struggling. They bounced back and beat Memphis. That gives me some confidence now in what UCF is doing. Really got the ground game going, rushing for over 200 yards last week. I'm going to take them by a couple of touchdowns against Temple. I watched a little bit of Cincinnati absolutely dominating Temple earlier this year. And a huge game in the AAC at 6 o'clock on ESPN2 in Houston. Houston is a 1-point favorite at home against 7-0 SMU. The only loss between these two teams was the season opening loss that Houston took to Texas Tech in a game that they controlled in the first half. So Houston is pretty close, at least fairly close, to being undefeated. They played 6.5 games worth of really good football. I don't see them beating SMU, though. I love what SMU has done this year. They're really fun to watch. I think an SMU-Cincinnati AAC championship rematch can be really, really fun after they're going to play here toward the end of the year as well. I think SMU, though, a lot of confidence. Love Tanner Mordecai. Love what the offense is doing. Houston, great stuff, winning 6 in a row. But I think SMU is the higher caliber team here. I just believe in them more than I do Dana Holgorsen in Houston. So I'm going to take them. If it's only 1 point, I'm definitely going to take Houston to lose the game. And then I get a little bit of a 1-point cushion as well. And then, of course, lest we forget about BYU. BYU is the last team on the docket here with another pretty big game. That's at 9:15 on ESPN2. The Cougs ranked number 25 in the country right now. They're taking on 6-2 Virginia. So a couple of 6-2 teams here. The next 2 weeks are extremely, extremely manageable for BYU. They win this game, it's going to set up an end-of-the-year showdown with USC, who may be totally cashed in by that point. BYU, basically what I'm saying is, can put together a 10-win season with a victory over Virginia, I think. Now, they are 2.5-point favorites at home in Provo. Man, I'm going to roll with BYU here. And that's even thinking throughout much of the year that BYU, kind of like Baylor, was one of those teams that would come back down to earth at some point. And they have to an extent. But Virginia, look, they've just beaten up on some AAC or ACC competition, which obviously it's not been a good year in that league. Their last 2 road wins were Louisville and Miami. I do think BYU is better than that. And those are both pretty tight games that Virginia played on the road there. So I'll take the Cougars by a field goal. If I can get that line at 2.5, I'll take the Cougars by a field goal at least in this game to get it done against Virginia and keep rolling on toward potentially a 10-win season. There you have it. There are your picks for Week 9. Take them to the bank. Actually, probably don't, or at least if you do, don't blame me. But if you disagree, let me know in the comments. If I'm wrong after the fact, you can let me know in the comments as well. Let me have it, man. That's the fun of college football. Appreciate you guys watching the channel. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.